The screaming child in the sand. The wind howled across the desert moon. Dust swirled in the air, making it hard to see. Jack, a human explorer, was kneeling beside his broken rover. He wiped the sweat from his forehead and adjusted his helmet. This planet, called Naraka 5, was marked Level 3 Hazard by the Galactic Union. No one was supposed to be here except for short repair missions. Jack was here to fix a sensor tower, then leave in 2 hours. That was the plan. But then he heard it. A scream high and sharp carried by the wind. It didn't sound like any animal he knew. It sounded like a child. Jack stood still, heart pounding. He turned toward the noise, but saw nothing but dunes. Another scream came, this one closer, more. Desperate, he grabbed his scanner, but the screen blinked. No life signs detected. Strange. He followed the sound, each step sinking into soft sand. His boots crunched over dry, cracked ground. After walking for several minutes, he stopped. There, near a broken ridge, was a tiny figure, a small alien girl not more than 5 or 6 years old. She was sitting in the sand, her knees pulled to her chest. She was shaking, her skin a pale blue, almost gray. Her clothes were torn and covered. In dust, Jack approached slowly, his voice calm. Hey, are you okay?" The girl looked up at him, her big silver eyes filled with fear and tears. She didn't answer, but pointed behind her. Her voice was barely a whisper. "My mama. She's stuck. Please." Jack frowned. He looked where she pointed, a narrow path leading into rocky hills. He checked his wrist device again. Still no signals, no warnings. But the girl was real. Her pain was real. "You're not supposed to be here," Jack said softly. She only looked at him with pleading eyes. He took a deep breath. "Okay, show me." The girl stood slowly, wobbling. She tried to walk, but her legs gave out. Jack caught her just in time. She was light, too light. Starving, maybe dehydrated. "I need to get you water first," Jack said, turning to go back to his rover. But the girl grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "No time," she whispered. "The sand, it eats people." Jack froze. "The sand eats people?" Before he could ask more, the ground rumbled slightly. A soft tremor passed under his feet. He looked around. Nothing was moving, but something felt wrong. He picked her up carefully and moved quickly back to the rover. Inside the rover, he gave her a water pack. She drank too fast and started coughing. He patted her back gently. "What's your name?" Jack asked. "Lyra," she said between sips. "Okay, Lyra. You said your mother is trapped?" She nodded, tears filling her eyes again. "In the red rocks. She tried to save me, but the trap got her." Jack looked out the window toward the rocky hills. He shouldn't go. It wasn't his mission. He should report this and wait for rescue ships. But rescue could take days. And this girl's mother might not survive the next hour. The screen blinked again. Still no signal. He looked at the little girl now sleeping with the empty water pack in her arms. She trusted him even though they were strangers. She had no one else. Jack got up, grabbed his gear, and opened the rover door. The heat hit him like a wave, but he didn't stop. He marked the rover's location on his wristband and followed the path Lyra had pointed out. As he walked deeper into the rocks, he saw signs of struggle, scratches in the stone, broken branches, strange footprints. Some of them looked like human boots. Others didn't. Then he saw it, a torn piece of cloth hanging from a sharp rock edge. He picked it up. It was alien fabric, but stained red. Blood. Jack's pulse quickened. He moved faster, careful with each step. The ground here was uneven and soft. In places, once he nearly slipped into a small pit. At the bottom was a skeleton, half buried, bones picked clean. He kept moving. Soon the rocks opened into a narrow canyon. And that's when he heard another sound. Not a scream this time. A weak moan. He followed the sound, heart racing. Around a bend in the shadow of tall red rocks, he saw her, an alien woman, older than Lyra, trapped in glowing red wires that pulsed like veins. She was suspended in the air, her arms stretched. Her body limp, She lifted her head weakly as Jack stepped forward. "Help, Lyra," she whispered before passing out. Jack stared at the glowing wires. They were not normal traps. They were alive, and now they had noticed him. Jack stood frozen as the glowing red wires pulsed softly around Lyra's mother. They weren't made of metal or rope. They moved like living things. He had never seen alien tech like this before. He slowly stepped back, careful not to make noise. His mind raced. He needed a plan, and fast. Jack turned and climbed back over the rocks. The moment he reached open space again, he tapped his wrist device. Still no signal, still no readings. It was like the canyon blocked all tech from working. He looked around, but everything was quiet again. Too quiet. He reached a split in the path, a fork in the rocky terrain. To the left, sand dunes stretched far and wide. To the right, a shallow valley curved into darkness. But something caught Jack's eye. Footprints. He crouched down and looked closely. The first set was small, Lyra's most likely. Next to them were larger prints, deeper in the sand, possibly her mother's. But then there were other prints, clawed, wide, and deep. Something big had moved here recently. Jack followed the path with the footprints. It led toward the edge of a dry stream bed. There, half buried in dust, was a shiny object. He brushed off the dirt. It was a broken alien communicator. Blood smeared one side of it, and the wires inside were melted. He turned it in his hand, trying to power it on. The screen blinked once, then died. It had been destroyed on purpose. Jack's throat tightened. This wasn't just a rescue mission now. Something wanted them to stay trapped. A soft, whispering wind passed by. It almost sounded like voices. Jack shook his head, trying to stay focused. Suddenly, his wrist alarm beeped. Low tremor detected. The ground beneath him vibrated just a little, then stopped. Not an earthquake. Something moving underground. He stepped back from the stream bed slowly. As he did, he spotted something strange poking out of the sand. He brushed it off. It was a glowing blue scale, smooth and sharp at the edge. Not from any beast he knew. He pocketed it and moved fast, heading back toward Lyra. When he reached the rover, the little girl was awake, sitting up. Her eyes widened when she saw the scale in his hand. "You found one," she whispered, her voice shaking. Jack knelt beside her. "What is this from, Lyra?" She pointed at the ground, her finger trembling. "They live below," she said. "The sand hides them, but they hear us." Jack frowned. "Your mother is still alive, but she's trapped in some kind of living wires." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "They come at night and take those who cry out. Mama tried to protect me." Jack grabbed more gear. Light flares, a plasma cutter, a med kit. He opened a storage case and pulled out a short-range jammer. If something was tracking them, he needed to block it for a little while. As he stepped outside again, he noticed something disturbing. His own boot prints had changed. Where he had walked earlier, now there were overlapping claw marks like something had walked over his trail. It hadn't left new prints. It had erased and replaced his. Jack scanned the area. Nothing, but his gut told him. Something was near. He returned to the ravine, stepping quietly. Each rock he touched, each footfall was careful and silent. He made it back to where Lyra's mother hung in the red wires. Her head was lowered, her breathing shallow. Jack crouched beside her, studying the wires. They pulsed in rhythm, like a heartbeat. He reached out with his plasma cutter and brought it close to one strand. The wires instantly tightened, glowing brighter. The woman moaned weakly. Jack stopped. These traps reacted to tools and energy. He put the cutter away, thinking fast. Then he remembered. The scale. Jack pulled out the blue scale he found. Slowly, he pressed the edge against one of the glowing wires. There was a soft spark, and the wire loosened slightly. He pressed harder, and it snapped, curling back like it had been burned. He smiled slightly. This might work. One by one, he began cutting the wires with the scale. It was slow work, and the deeper wires were closer to her skin. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed behind him. A sharp screech. He turned quickly, pressing against the rocks. Nothing was there, but the air felt heavier, charged. He cut the last wire, and Lyra's mother collapsed into his arms. She was light and cold, her skin pale. He placed a water capsule near her lips. Her eyes opened just a little. "You are not one of them," she whispered. "No," Jack said. "I'm human. Your daughter sent me." The woman gave a weak smile. Then her eyes rolled shut again. Jack picked her up gently and began moving. But as he stepped out of the canyon, he stopped cold. Something stood at the top of the rocks. Tall, thin, and covered in glowing blue scales. It tilted its head slowly at him, its yellow eyes blinking once. Then it vanished into the sand without a sound. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. Whatever it was, it had let him go for now. Jack carried Lyra's mother carefully through the rocky canyon. The red cliffs rose high around him, blocking most of the light. Each step felt heavier than the last. His back ached, but he didn't stop. He knew something was watching. Hidden, in the sand or shadows, Lyra's mother, though weak, whispered softly, "Don't speak loud. They hear vibrations." Jack nodded, lips tight. He moved slowly, trying not to make any loud sounds. His boots pressed gently on the sand-covered rock. No crunch, no echo, just careful steps. As he reached a wider area in the ravine, he noticed something odd. The ground here was smooth, too smooth, no natural cracks, no fallen rocks. It was like someone or something had cleaned this space. That's when he saw the strange marks. Faint lines etched into the ground in a spiral shape, not cut by tools but burned in. Jack stepped around them, his heart racing faster. He placed Lyra's mother behind a large boulder and took out a scanning tool. The scanner showed nothing. Blank readings again. Whatever tech lived here, it blocked human machines completely. Suddenly, a soft hum rose in the air. Jack froze. The spiral marks on the ground began to glow faintly. One by one, small stones around the area lifted into the air. Floating, the trap had been triggered again. Jack rushed back to the woman and shielded her with his body. The floating stones dropped sharply, exploding into dust as they hit the ground. Then silence. He waited, breathing slowly. The glowing lines faded, and the trap shut down. But Jack now understood. This wasn't just a place to catch intruders, it was a testing ground. Jack carried the mother farther into the ravine where the walls narrowed. The shadows deepened and the air turned colder. Strange glowing mushrooms grew along the rocks, giving dim light. Ahead, he saw an arch made from bones, tall, twisted, and clearly not human. As he passed under it, he heard something shift above. He looked up. On a ledge sat a creature, small, dark, and watching. Its eyes glowed green, its limbs long and thin like branches. It made no move, just stared. Jack didn't blink. He slowly turned and kept walking. If he showed fear, it might strike. He reached a hidden cave where the walls curved in like a shell. He gently laid Lyra's mother down and checked her pulse. Still weak but steady, he pulled out his last emergency heat patch and placed it on her chest, then injected her with a stim from his med kit. She gasped and opened her eyes wide. "Where's Lyra?" she asked, voice trembling. "She's safe in my rover. I'll take you to her soon," Jack said gently. She grabbed his hand. "They want her, not me." "She's different." Jack looked confused. "Different how?" "She was born near the crystal storms. Her blood carries energy. Rare energy," she whispered. "That's why they hunt her." Jack now understood this wasn't random, the traps, the blocking tech, the monster. It was all designed to capture Lyra, not her mother, not him, just the little girl. Suddenly, Jack's wristband lit up. A weak signal appeared. A communication request. He tapped it. Emergency beacon activated. It read, Lyra had sent it. Jack's heart dropped. She was still in the rover, but she had activated the beacon. She must have seen something, or worse, someone had found her. He turned to Lyra's mother. "I have to go back now." She grabbed his wrist tightly. Please don't let them take her. I won't, Jack promised. He picked up his plasma knife and checked his path. He would need to go fast, but carefully. The ravine was full of silent traps and watching creatures. Every wrong step could mean death. Jack moved quickly through the rocks, retracing his steps. The shadows felt darker now, the silence more heavy. He passed the bone arch again, but this time the ledge was empty. The green-eyed watcher was gone. As he climbed a slope toward the surface, something darted across the path. He raised his weapon, but it was gone, too fast, too quiet. He reached the exit of the ravine and looked down at the desert. His rover was still there, shimmering in the heat. But the door was open. Jack's heart raced. He ran, forgetting the silent rule. His boots hit the sand hard. Too loud, a rumble echoed beneath his feet. The ground began to crack, and then, boom! A creature burst from the sand, tall, armored in blue-black scales, long claws, no mouth, only rows of eyes. It blocked the path between Jack and the rover. Inside, he saw Lyra standing in the doorway, her eyes wide, her small hands glowing with faint light. The creature turned its gaze toward her, but didn't move closer. It was waiting. Jack took a breath and raised his weapon. If this thing wanted the child, it would have to go through him first. Jack didn't move. The creature stood between him and the rover like a living wall. Its skin was dark blue with hints of black, shining like stone under the sun. Its body was long, almost like a snake, but it had limbs, 6 of them. Each arm ended in claws that dug into the sand as if the ground belonged to it. Rows of yellow. Eyes blinked, all fixed on one thing, Lyra. The little girl stood frozen at the doorway of the rover. Her hands glowed softly, like before. A strange light surrounded her fingers, pulsing with her breath. She didn't scream, didn't run. She only watched the creature, as if she knew it. Jack raised his plasma cutter slowly. His hand shook. Not from fear, but from the weight of what he was about to do. He knew this wasn't just a wild beast, it was intelligent, maybe even ancient. And it had waited. He stepped forward and shouted, "Get away from her!" His voice echoed across the sand. The creature didn't flinch, but the sand around it began to ripple. Tiny waves moved outward as if the very desert listened to its heartbeat. Then it made a sound, not a growl or a roar, but a deep vibration. Like thunder inside the earth, Jack's ears buzzed. His chest felt tight. Lyra gasped and stepped back into the rover. But before the door could close, the creature dashed forward, faster than wind. Jack lunged, throwing himself in its path. The plasma cutter flared to life, sending a white-hot line toward the beast. But the creature twisted sideways, avoiding the blow with unnatural speed. Its tail swept under Jack, knocking him hard onto the sand. He hit the ground and rolled, coughing. The creature paused above him, claws ready to strike. But then, it stopped. One of its claws hovered near Jack's wrist, where his device blinked. With a soft green light, it pulled back, curious. Tilting its head, Jack took the moment and reached into his side pack. He grabbed the glowing blue scale he'd found earlier. He held it up like a shield. The creature saw it and froze. It slowly backed away, eyes narrowing. It recognized the scale. Suddenly, the ground beneath it opened like water. The creature vanished, swallowed by the sand with no sound, no trace. Jack sat up, breathing hard. He stared at the place where it disappeared. Was it gone? Or watching again from below? He got to his feet and rushed to the rover. Lyra ran into his arms the moment he stepped inside. "I thought you wouldn't come back," she whispered. "I promised I would," Jack said, hugging her tightly. "Did it hurt you?" "No," she said softly. "It was waiting." Jack looked at her hands, still faintly glowing. He asked gently, "What is this, Lyra? Why does it want you?" She looked down, then up at him, her eyes sad. "I was born in a storm, when crystals filled the sky. My mother says the storm changed me. I can hear things. I can feel when something's near." Jack sat down thinking. She wasn't just any alien child, she was something more, something rare, possibly even dangerous to the wrong people. Suddenly, his wrist device buzzed. The screen blinked. Incoming. Signal detected. He tapped it, and a hologram appeared. A voice came through, harsh and cold. This is Unit 9 of the Acquisition Guild. We are tracking energy anomalies. If you have recovered the child, hand her over now. Jack's blood ran cold. They weren't just random bounty hunters. This was a guild. People who sold rare beings to the highest bidder. He ended the call immediately, then turned to Lyra. We have to move now. He grabbed supplies and helped Lyra into the seat. But then, another message flashed on the screen. 2 ships incoming, ETA, 6 minutes. Jack looked up into the sky and saw them. Small black dots growing closer. They were coming fast, too fast to outrun. He had to hide. He turned the rover and drove it into the canyon again. But this time, he didn't stop in the open. He looked for something deeper, a hidden space after 5 minutes of sharp turns and blind corners. He found it. A narrow crack in the rocks. It looked like nothing, but his scanner showed a small cavern behind it. He activated the rover's crawler mode, and the vehicle squeezed through the gap. Inside was darkness, cool and still. Jack parked and turned off all lights. He placed his hand on Lyra's shoulder. No sound, he whispered. No lights. They waited. From outside, engines roared. 2 shadowy ships flew over the canyon, scanning the ground. For a moment they hovered, then moved on. Jack didn't move until the sound faded. He leaned back, breathing quietly. Lyra curled up beside him, exhausted. And deep in the shadows of the cave, something blinked, a pair of eyes far back, silently watching. The cave was silent. Jack sat near the rover's window, watching the dark. He couldn't see anything clearly, but he could feel eyes watching. Not human eyes, not hostile, just present, like the cave itself was awake. Lyra sat beside him, her legs pulled close. She rested her head on her knees, tired but alert. Her small hands no longer glowed, but her energy still pulsed gently in the air. Jack whispered, "You doing okay?" She nodded slowly. "Yes," she said, "but I feel them again, not the hunters, something older." Jack glanced around. There were no lights, no movement, just cool stone and silence. Still, he trusted her feeling more than any scanner. She was never wrong. He activated the rover's shield in silent mode, covering them in a weak energy field. Not strong enough to block an attack, but enough to delay it. Then he checked on Lyra's mother, still sleeping in the back. Her breath was steady, her skin warmer. She would wake soon. Suddenly, the air changed. A low hum began to echo through the cave, soft and steady. It wasn't a machine, it was a voice speaking a language Jack didn't understand. Deep and slow, like stone. Rolling over stone, Lyra looked up, her eyes wide. She whispered, "It's speaking to me." Jack listened, but the words made no sense. Lyra closed her eyes and placed her hand on the cave floor. The glow returned to her fingers, brighter than before. She whispered back, not in English, not in her own tongue. It was something else, something ancient. Then the voice stopped. Silence returned. Lyra opened her eyes and turned to Jack. "It says, we are safe for now." Jack raised his eyebrow. "Who said that?" Lyra pointed to the stone wall. "The cave," she answered. "Or something inside it, something old." Jack leaned forward, feeling the cave wall. It was smooth, warm, almost like skin. He pulled his hand away, unsettled but calm. "This planet gets weirder by the minute," he muttered. Lyra smiled faintly. "It says you are different." Jack blinked. "Me? Yes, you came to help, not to take. It remembers your kind from long ago." Jack didn't know what to say. He had no idea humans had even visited this place before. But the way Lyra spoke, it wasn't like a child guessing. It was like a message passed directly through her. Before he could ask more, Lyra's mother stirred. She opened her eyes and sat up weakly. Her voice was dry. Where are we?" Jack helped her sit. "A hidden cave. We had to hide from the hunters. She looked around, then at her daughter. Lyra leaned into her arms, silent but relieved. The mother looked at Jack. "You stayed," she whispered, surprised. He nodded. "I couldn't leave you behind." Tears filled her eyes. "No one's ever helped us like that, not without asking for something." Jack didn't answer. Instead, he handed her water and checked his wrist device. Still no strong signal, but the guild ships were farther now. For the moment, they were safe. Then the mother spoke again, her voice slow. "There's something you should know, something Lyra can't say herself." Jack sat down, listening. She continued. "Lyra was born during a crystal storm. The energy in those storms changes everything it touches. She can sense life, feel machines, and sometimes speak without speaking." Jack looked at Lyra, who was quietly drawing circles in the dirt. "She's rare," her mother said, "and the guild wants to use her, sell her, or worse. They call her a living key." Jack frowned. "A key to what?" The mother shrugged weakly. "Ancient doors, old systems, ruins no one can open." Jack's mind spun. He had heard of alien structures sealed for thousands of years, doors that refused to open for machines, codes, or even brute force. But if Lyra was truly connected to something deeper, then she was in more danger than they all realized. "She doesn't deserve this," Jack said. "No child does," her mother replied. Then a thought hit Jack. What if we use that? The mother looked at him confused. Used what? He leaned in. Her ability, her light to trick the guild. Lure them into a trap. They want her as a prize, right? Lyra looked up, eyes wide. You want me to pretend? Jack smiled. Just for a moment, enough to make them believe. And while they reach out with greedy hands, we pull the ground from under them. The mother looked uncertain. Lyra looked brave. I can do it, she said quietly. I want to stop running. Jack reached over and took her hand. I won't let them take you, he said firmly. Not now, not ever. And deep within the cave, that old voice hummed once more. Not in fear, but in approval. The cave stayed quiet, but the air was no longer still. Something had shifted, like the world was waiting for their next move. Jack sat beside the rover, eyes locked on the flickering screen of his wrist device. 2 enemy ships were still circling, not far, but not landing yet. They were watching, scanning, waiting for something to move. We don't have much time, Jack whispered. Lyra and her mother sat together, sharing the last of the food rations. The girl's small fingers glowed again, not out of fear, but focus. She was practicing, tracing energy shapes in the air. Jack could tell. She was preparing herself. He stood and gathered tools, rope, flares, one last explosive disc, and his half-charged plasma cutter. Then he looked at Lyra. I have a plan, he said, voice calm but serious. We use their greed against them. Lyra's mother looked up, her eyes full of worry. You mean to make her bait? Jack nodded slowly. Only for a short time, and she won't be alone. He kneeled next to Lyra. I'll be right there with you. Lyra gave a brave little smile. They think I'm weak, she said softly. Let's show them I'm not. Jack led them out of the cave through a second narrow exit. He had found it earlier, hidden behind a rock wall. It led to a high ridge with a clear view of the desert below. He placed the flare launchers in the rocks, set the explosive. Trap near a flat clearing. Then he activated the jammer to create a fake energy signal, matching Lyra's. From above, it would look like she was standing alone in the middle of the sand. An easy target, a glowing prize. Exactly what the hunters wanted. Lyra stood quietly at the center of the trap zone. Her hands glowed just enough to draw attention. Jack crouched behind a boulder 10 feet away. His finger hovered over the detonator, one press, and the ground beneath her would explode in a burst of light and noise, enough to blind sensors, confuse scanners, and create chaos. Here they come, Jack said under his breath. From the sky, the 2 dark ships began to descend. Their engines howled low, shaking the sand as they neared. The ships hovered, then slowly opened their cargo ramps. Dark shapes stepped out, 4 hunters in black armor, helmets smooth and faceless. They moved with confidence, weapons ready. One of them raised a scanner and pointed it at Lyra. Jack could see the screen flash bright green. Target matched. The second hunter raised a capture net launcher. Another one reached for a collar device. Jack waited, heart pounding. Closer, closer. Just a few more steps. Suddenly, Lyra looked up. At them. Not scared, but glowing brighter, her voice rang out clear, "You will not take me." At that moment, Jack pressed the button. Boom! The sand exploded in a flash of light, blinding and loud. The net flew in the wrong direction. The scanner sparked and failed. The hunters fell backward, stunned and coughing. Jack jumped from his cover and fired his plasma cutter, slicing through a weapon before it could lock onto Lyra. She ran toward him, and he caught her mid-step. Spinning to shield her from a falling blast, one hunter charged. But from behind them came a new sound, rumble. The sand behind the hunters cracked open. From beneath the desert, it rose again. The creature from before its blue-black body towered over them, eyes glowing yellow. The hunters froze. One fired a shot. It bounced off the creature's armor like a spark on stone. With a roar that shook the canyon, the beast struck. 2 hunters were swept away in seconds, lost in dust and claws. The others ran for their ship, panicked now in their movements. Jack pulled Lyra behind a rock, covering her with his body. But the creature didn't come for them. It chased the hunters back into the sky, roaring and throwing sand high into the air. The ship engines screamed as they rose, fleeing fast within moments. Silence again. Just Jack, Lyra, the echo of wind, and the fading glow in her hands. Jack looked at her. "You did it," he said, smiling. Lyra looked back, breathing hard. "No, we did it," she whispered. "And it helped us too." She looked out into the sand where the creature had disappeared. "I think it was guarding something. Maybe me?" Jack didn't answer, but inside he knew she was right. This wasn't just a random world, it was a sacred ground, and Lyra was connected to it deeply. Her mother ran toward them from the ridge, tears in her eyes. She hugged Lyra, tight, whispering thanks to Jack again and again. But Jack looked toward the horizon. This wasn't over yet, because guilds don't give up easily. And now, more eyes would be watching. But for now, they were safe. And Jack knew, whatever came, next he would fight for this strange little girl with glowing hands, because in a galaxy full of darkness, she was the brightest thing he'd ever seen. The desert was quiet again. The wind carried soft dust across the scorched ground. Jack stood at the edge of a rocky rise looking toward the horizon. The ships were gone, the hunters defeated, for now. But he knew it wasn't the end, only a pause. Behind him, Lyra and her mother sat beside the rover. They were safe, alive, and no longer running. For the first time since he arrived on this cursed planet, Jack allowed himself to breathe, but he couldn't stop thinking about the creature. The way it attacked the hunters but never touched them, the way it responded to Lyra's light. This planet wasn't just protecting her, it was connected to her. Somehow, some ancient way, Lyra walked up beside him, her small hand reaching for his. He looked down and smiled. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded. "The ground is calm now," she said. "They're sleeping again." Jack tilted his head. "They?" Lyra pointed to the sand, to the caves, to the sky. "All of it," she said. "The planet, the creatures, the voices, underground. They watch, but they don't speak unless they trust you." Jack crouched beside her. "And they trust you?" She nodded slowly. "They do now because you stayed, because you protected us." Her words hit deeper than he expected. He'd only wanted to do the right thing. He never planned to become a part of something this big, this strange. But now, he couldn't walk away. Lyra's mother approached, holding something wrapped in cloth. It looked old, almost sacred. She handed it to Jack with both hands. "What's this?" he asked. "A gift," she said. "From the cave." Jack opened it slowly. Inside was a small crystal shard, faintly glowing blue. The same energy as Lyra's light, the same glow as the traps in the creature's eyes. It's called a heartstone, her mother explained. The planet grows them in hidden places. They only appear for those who are chosen. Jack looked at the shard, surprised. Chosen? Me? She smiled. You're not just a rescuer now, Jack. You're a part of this place, whether you meant to be or not. Jack didn't know what to say. He wasn't a hero, not in his own mind. He was just a man who answered a cry for help, but maybe sometimes that's all it took. Suddenly, Jack's wrist device buzzed. A signal, real and strong. The repair station had come back online. Help could be called. Backup could arrive. The guild wouldn't dare return once. Official ships landed. He looked at Lyra and her mother. We can leave now, he said gently. I can take you to a safe colony where they won't ever find you. Lyra looked up at him, her silver eyes thoughtful. But what about you? She asked. Jack paused. I was supposed to leave hours ago, he said. Just a repair job, in and out. But now? He looked out across the sand one last time. Now I'm not so sure. The wind shifted, and far in the distance the sand rose again. Softly this time. Not danger, not warning. Just a quiet reminder that something down there still watched. Still listened. Lyra stepped closer and held Jack's hand tightly. You don't have to be alone anymore, she said. Jack smiled. Neither do you. They returned to the rover together. He helped her mother inside, checked the supplies, then activated the signal beacon. Within minutes, a distant light appeared in the sky. Rescue was coming, but so was change. When the Galactic officers arrived, they scanned the site, took records, and offered Jack a ride home. He looked at the open door of the ship, then at Lyra. She stood by his rover, her eyes hopeful, her smile small but real. Jack turned to the officer. I'm staying, he said. The officer looked surprised. Sir, this planet's not safe, are you sure? Jack nodded. I've seen what's dangerous, but I've also seen what's worth protecting. The officer gave him one last look, then nodded and left. The ship rose into the sky, leaving behind silence once again. As night fell, Jack sat. By a small fire near the cave, Lyra curled up beside him, already asleep. Her mother leaned back on the rock, resting at last. The stars above shimmered like tiny heartstones in the sky, and deep beneath the sand, the ancient watchers stayed quiet, but not asleep. They remembered him now, the human who didn't run, the man who fought not for power, not for gold, but simply because someone asked for help, and to them, in their strange and silent way, that made him a part of their world forever. The desert wind passed gently through the rocks, and Lyra whispered in her sleep, He's our family now.